back. What's up, guys? So glad you guys are here. Got my buddy Andrew, got my buddy Tate, got my buddy Ian. We are so glad to be here. We're going to be bringing a word on faith. Let's give it up. Faith, come on. So faith is oftentimes thought of as the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. The actual definition of the word of faith is complete trust or confidence in someone or something, oftentimes God. I'm going to break down Genesis chapter 22, verses 9 through 14. That is the story of Abraham and Isaac when Abraham takes Isaac up to the mount. And then we're going to each have a little bit, just give you a little bit of what we think, what we've heard, what we've seen. And we're just glad to be bringing this for you guys. There's one more definition, and I want to give you the definition of the word sacrifice. And I want y'all to truly think of something that means sacrifice for you. What you would be willing to sacrifice, how you would be willing to sacrifice something. Just kind of be thinking along those lines. The word sacrifice is an act of slaughtering or killing an animal, surrendering. It is the act of slaughtering or killing an animal, surrendering a possession as an offering to God or divine supernatural gift. Sorry, I got tongue twisted. I'm trying to do this on a time limit. Ian's got to leave, unfortunately, but we're getting to that point. So I'm going to start with the scripture. Genesis 22, verse 9 through 14. Starts out, when they arrived at the place that God had told them about, Abraham built an altar there and arranged the wood. He bound his son Isaac and placed him on the altar on top of the wood. Then Abraham reached out and took the knife to slaughter his son. But the angel of the Lord called to him from heaven and said, Abraham, Abraham. He replied, Here I am. Then he said, Do not lay a hand on the boy or do anything to him. For now I know that you fear God, since you have not withheld your only son from me. Abraham looked up and saw a ram caught in a thicket of thorns. So Abraham went and took the ram, offered it as a burnt offering in place of his son. And Abraham named that place, The Lord Will Provide. So today it is said, it will be provided on the Lord's mount. Guys, I love how it said that word slaughter. And that was in verse 10. Abraham was willing to sacrifice his son. He was willing to kill his own son. We only hear about that, twice in the entire Bible? Abraham, and then, God sent Jesus to die for our sins. What would be a good comparison to now, to today's time, of that sacrifice, that something that we covet so much, something that we love so much? What would be one of those hard things for you guys?
For me, it'd be say God calls me to go be a missionary, like Iran or somewhere where it's really dangerous. You'd be sacrificing everything to go do that. But you have to have faith that God will protect you.
So sacrificing your own family time, your possessions, things like that, that would be a pretty tough thing to do. I know missionaries all across the globe, man. I actually work for a really, really powerful couple that travel the globe, and they go to different places all over, and they've sacrificed family time to be able to spread the word of God. And I love that, because Andrew, we all know that that's where you're called to be, specifically in the realm of just going into all nations. And that Matthew 28 perspective, that Matthew 28 mentality of go into all nations and make disciples of men. What about you, Tate?
Well, I think of a job, so to say. You have to sacrifice. If you're called to relocate somewhere, then basically you have to put everything on the line, leave everything behind right then.
So family, job, again, guys, these are not wrong answers. Recently, I'd done that same thing where I gave up my entire life here in Alabama and moved halfway across the country. And that was a big step of faith. And we don't think about that. Ian is actually headed to college in the fall, and everything that he's ever known has been right here in this small town. And he's going to one of the biggest party schools in the state, in probably the entire United States. I just talk a little bit about that, Ian. Tell us about that decision to come to college and am I going to go or am I going to stay here? How did that go over for you?
Well, number one, I live with my parents, so I wanted out. I wanted to kind of take that step of faith of being on my own and learn stuff for myself. And I mean, the Bible does say go to all corners of the world, so you got to get out of your comfort zone. To me, like if you're digging into sacrifice, the biggest thing for me would be trust and coming out of your comfort zone, because that's what it is. Like you're completely leaving what you know, putting your trust on the line to take that extra step.
It's almost a sense of like, do I get burned by this?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, people will burn us every time.
Yeah.
If we put our faith in man alone, then like, man's gonna mess up. And it's not a knock on any of you guys. I know that I can trust you guys. I love you guys with all my heart, but at the same time, like, I know that at some point, one of them is gonna fail me, not on purpose, but because, you know, we can't be perfect at all times. So like looking at that and looking at this word faith and the fact that it talks about complete trust or confidence, and that's all that God's asking from us. You know, I look at our relationships, guys, and y'all, I would say like younger me, y'all would have not have trusted as much. You know, especially when I remember a story when I was about 17 or 18. I had asked James, which is Ian's dad, I had asked him if Ian could come and play basketball with us at a gym in downtown Jasper. And James told me him and his wife did not feel comfortable allowing Ian to ride with me. Not because I wasn't a bad person, but because I was 17 years old and Ian was still young. Like he was 14, 15, 13, 14, somewhere around in there. And I'm sure you guys have stories like that as well. You know, so with that topic or that understanding of faith, I want to bring it to more of a Christian realm and more of this like, what are we doing to access our faith and how do we access our faith? And I want to look at not just like with Ian, but with you, Andrew. We know that seminary has been something that's been on your heart. Where's your heart with that? Like, where's your head? Is that too much of a sacrifice for you to give up everything you have right here, or, you know, how are you thinking about that?
I mean, I really didn't want to go to seminary, but God's calling me to go to seminary. But I want to do whatever God says to do, because I know on this life, it doesn't matter what we do. I mean, it does matter what we do in it, but I'm looking at the long term. I'm looking for eternity, not
Kingdom minded. That's the big thing, guys, is how do we stay kingdom minded in this moment? You know, I look at Abraham, and Abraham he's considered the father of our faith. And I think that's one, like, it was this moment right here where he had his knife up and he was just willing to end his son's life, to give him back to God. You know, I know it's symbolic now for us to, like, you know, hand our babies back over after they've been born and, like, you know, baptize them that way. And I don't remember the technical term for it. But it's almost like a coronation of the faith. And we, like, willingly hand our babies back to God. I want to point out, me and Tate have been talking back and forth about this. I'm going to Maine in October to help start a church, and Tate's been communicating back and forth with me, and I'm really wanting him to go. I know that this is like a big thing for him, and Tate's a very family-oriented guy. You want to give us a little detail in your mind on that, like how big of a step this really is for you?
Well, see, I take care of my grandmother, and all of our family is dispersed across the state. I'm here to take care of her, and everybody else lives a good 50 to 100 miles away in Birmingham or so-and-so, wherever. And so I'm all she has other than other elder family around here. And so that's kind of my biggest issue of what I'm leaving behind, although she does want me to go, but I still feel like I need to be here to look after her.
You would say you're kind of at a crossroads in that.
Very.
It's like it's so big, you know, and I know that looking at you, Ian, I know that that's kind of where you're at too with your parents. You know, like not only do you feel a little bit of like, yeah, I got to get out of my parents' house, but at the same time, you're like, I don't want them to be upset. How do I keep that relationship? And this is with all of us, you know, like how do we man our relationships in a way that like, even after I give up this, even after I slaughter this sacrifice, even after I kill it and I say, all right, I'm moving on to this next step. Like I look at Abraham, if he would have had to kill Isaac, how would he have gotten over that? So what would you say in these next steps? Because we know it's coming up quick, man. August it's about to be here, and you're going to be going to, you know, it's only like 2.5 hours away, but it's still, you know, that's the furthest you ever lived away from your parents.
Yeah.
How are you mentally prepping for that?
How am I mentally prepared for that? For me, I just want to be myself. Honestly, I've kind of, even through high school, I was kind of that guy where like I played sports and I was athletic, so I kind of fit in this group. I was semi-smart. I liked science, so I kind of fit in that group too. And I kind of just fit in anywhere I go. So that's kind of where I'm kind of viewing it. I don't think I'll be alone in it. I feel like I'll be planted with a good group of people there, and that's just kind of where I'm viewing it.
That's the cool thing about, you know, when you up and displaced from somewhere. I know that a lot of people have a lot of trouble with like, this is where I've been, this is where I know, this is what I love, and God's asking a lot out of me to move. I'm sure some of you have been contemplating and like, how do I take this step? I'm the oldest out of our friend group by like 3 years. So like I have a lot of experience in this move, and like, okay, I'm just gonna be here, I'm gonna go here. And like I said, I moved to Colorado almost 2 years ago. And then this October I'll be moving to Maine. I love my family, man. I love everybody that I've come in contact with. Like you guys are more than just friends, you guys are my brothers. And it really is that sacrifice to faith. You know, like, what am I willing to give up to walk with God? What am I willing to give up to succeed in whatever I want to succeed in? You can even put this into non-Christian terms, man. And I look at basketball players like LeBron James, or I look at Michael Jordan. Like, they had to sacrifice something at a young age. Sacrifice friendships, relationships with parents, relationships with teachers, you know, things along those lines, just to be able to play the game that they loved. You don't get that good. Kobe Bryant, he's one of the greatest basketball players to ever play the game, but yet, like, he didn't have friends. Like, even his teammates weren't his friends. They would tell you they did not like Kobe because Kobe was so hard-nosed and he had a vision on what he wanted to see. And that's kind of like what we're doing here, guys. We see a vision and we know where we want to be. I look at each of our lives, man. Tate being one of the best musicians that I personally know. Andrew being one of the purest hearted people. He just loves everybody that he comes in contact with, and he doesn't just want to benefit you guys just because he's there, but he wants to bring you into this walk that he has with God. And I look at Ian, man. Ian's got a passion for young people. And it's specific towards, like, yeah, he wants to be a teacher and he wants to be a school coach, but like, I know that his passion is to elevate the next generation, some way, some shape, some form. And you know, I look at that on my own life, and guys, I appreciate the way that you guys strive and you hunger for God. It truly is impactful. I would just encourage you guys on this, like, how to get like to that next level is walk in that faith. And do it little by little. Take a little bit out and be like, okay, I'm going to give this much. I'm gonna step out this much more in faith. I look at Peter when he was walking on the water, and you know, like, Peter would take steps, and then he like lost his focus on God and started falling. And then when he started falling, he freaked out. And like, ultimately, like, yeah, we got to make that sacrifice. But when we get to that point of faith, what are we going to do? Is it going to be an action? Or is it going to be just, oh man, I don't know what to do here? Guys, for all of y'all that are watching this video, for everybody at home, for everybody that, like, still doesn't get or grasp around this idea of faith, I'm gonna summarize it into the best thing I can. And it's, you don't know what faith is. My friend Danielle actually gave me this amazing quote. Y'all can see my notes. I don't care. And it says, you don't have to feel it to be faithful. How cool is that? Like, it's not something you feel, but it's an act. It's a choice. So I want to encourage you guys at home. I want to encourage you guys here. Make that choice to be faithful, even when it seems like it's really, really hard. Because you don't know what God's got prepped for you on the next step. Andrew, you want to pray us out?
Yeah. God, thank you for this day that you've given us, Lord. I pray that, God, you'll just keep us safe as we go on with the rest of this day. Thank you for allowing us just to come here and have this talk, God. And I pray, especially over this video, God, that it will impact somebody's life, God, tomorrow, God, or 10 years from now when they look back and view it, God. Thank you for everything that you've done for us, and help us just to live our lives for you, and God, do what you've called us to do, God. In Jesus' name I pray, amen.
Amen. Y'all stay safe out there.